Hello again. So here I am again in Room of Doom. I wanted to do another video. This one is something quite different. Thank you so much to everyone that watched my previous video, which was all about the behind the scenes of organising a wedding fair, looking at sort of the last few stages, the last few days running up to a show. Been overwhelmed with the amount of people that have watched that and come back to me with really positive comments. So following that and the show on Sunday, the Cheshire Wedding Fayre, I wanted to discuss the cost of exhibitor stalls at wedding fairs, because I feel there is some major confusion and mixed feelings on the cost of stalls at wedding fairs. Some suppliers are curious kind of where the cost goes, others are confused why costs differ so much between organisers and venues. So I kind of just wanted to clear up the confusion and talk about it a little bit more today. I realise this is kind of very transparent. I have got some notes kind of here, which is why I keep glancing this way. So perhaps you're here because you do have some questions. There are some question marks that you feel kind of needs answering. You feel like this needs addressing, or maybe you're here just because you're intrigued, which is absolutely fine. So the stall fee that exhibitors will pay to attend our wedding fairs is one of the first details that's decided on. As soon as the date's in the diary, we look at, obviously when we've got when and where confirmed, we then look at the details for the exhibitors to start getting the exhibitors booked in. This also means that we can create a in-depth profit plan to kind of see the outcome of the wedding fair basically. This profit plan, I've got an example printed in front of me which I'll show you, includes a target number of exhibitors that we would like to hit. Any add-on income that could potentially come from this wedding fair is listed, so we've got a target and predicted expenditure, so there's no fear of running over budget or whatever. There you go, so you can kind of see this is a profit plan, a very brief profit plan we did for Holt Lodge Wedding Fair. So you can kind of just see our targets there. So we've got number of exhibitors we ideally liked was 26, and we did actually, that was the maximum the venue could host, and we did hit that number, which was great, at £150 each per person. And there's a little breakdown of expenses there as to where that money was kind of going to go, but again I am going to go in more depth about that now anyway. So we offer a service in any way someone else would. So if you're a wedding photographer, for example, there will always be a profit for your work, obviously, because that's how you make a living, that's how we make a living, is by running these wedding fairs. So it's so important to us that we do make a profit so we can invest into further shows and items and everything else to make our events even better and bigger. So these profits are basically what keeps Bouquet and Bells going. It's what I live off. This is what I do full time. That was actually, it was last February, so February 2018 was when I quit work altogether. I went down to part-time and then I managed to quit altogether to take this on full-time, just because of the demand of my events and the pace of which everything was picking up, and it was just becoming impossible to juggle two things at once, and I wanted my main focus to be in this. So looking at the Cheshire Wedding Fayre typical expense sheet, looking at the averages here of expenses, you can see this column here. That's the expenditure over how many shows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows. So you can see the average at the bottom there is, on average, we spend just over £5,000, and that covers everything. So I have done a bit more of an in-depth breakdown of a typical sort of expense sheet. So we've got the description down here of the particular item which we're spending. So for example, goodie bags, the actual goodie bags cost us money, obviously. Featured listing on websites, Facebook adverts, newspaper adverts, magazine adverts. So you can see there everything we typically cover when organising a wedding fair. Then we've got the amount down here. You can pause the video now if you want to have a little bit more of an in-depth look, but that is a typical expense sheet for us at a wedding fair. I wanted to show you the expense sheet for the Cheshire Wedding Fayre because it's the longest running show that we've hosted, and being the original one as well, I think it was quite interesting to kind of see the progression of finance and everything from that show, and obviously yeah, we've got a lot more expenditure to show for that one. So that's why I wanted to show you that. The average cost of a stall at our shows is currently at £134.33. I'll let you do I'll let you do the maths on that, but you can see how much expenditure we set aside based on those sheets there. We've had suppliers say that our fares are too costly. Some suppliers won't pay anything more than, say, £50 to £75 for a standard size stall, and others have said that we don't charge enough for our fares, which is quite a statement to say, I guess, as a supplier exhibiting at our shows, to say that we don't charge enough means a lot to me, really, because it shows that you feel like it's been really worth your while, which is amazing. We actually had a supplier at the most recent Cheshire Wedding Fayre leave us some amazing feedback, and she said straight up, you don't charge enough for your wedding fares based on the number of attendees that you get through the door. She said it was the most reasonable fair she's exhibited at in terms of kind of what you get back for the stall fee that you pay. So we've had a few comments like that, and I'm always so scared of charging too much for stalls, because I don't want to cross the line of losing my most valued suppliers, and I also love to offer things that are a little bit different at wedding fairs. So I would like to have a real good mix of unique supplies that you wouldn't find at other wedding fairs, and I feel like by crossing that line and charging too much, there's a fear that we'll lose that. And it's something I know that visitors love at our fairs, is seeing there's something different. Another kind of common comments that we've had as a result of feedback from, again, looking at the Cheshire Wedding Fayre, is the appearance of the sports hall which the wedding fair is hosted. We had a lot of comments from the recent shows saying the green sports hall floor and the walls were just very unattractive and blah blah blah. We know that in an ideal world we wouldn't be hosting the fair in a sports hall, but it's what works for that particular event. And I've had quotes of actually previous shows I've gone away and thought, oh yeah, I'd absolutely love to carpet the hall, that'd be amazing, and I'd love to drape all the walls so we get rid of the horrible brick and everything else. But quotes have come back in excess of £5,000, and I personally cannot look to spend that much, because that is like the expenditure that we already spend doubled. And it's something that doesn't affect the general runnings of the day. It doesn't affect the outcome of the fair to visitors or exhibitors. It just means that the pictures would look a little bit prettier. But personally, if I'm spending that much of money, I would rather put that into good advertising of the event to kind of like triple the footfall, rather than, it's just totally unrealistic at the moment for me to look to doing that. So I kind of just wanted to address that, because I think that it's very easy for people to look at us and think, oh, why don't they just, spend, I don't know, I don't think people understand how much we need to spend on that, but some people just assume that it would be quite an easy thing to do. So that's not, it's not kind of the case at all at the moment, unfortunately. So going forward on that feedback, I did say to some suppliers that perhaps for the next show they could bring something like a rug for their stall to just kind of put the table on top, and that would kind of detract from the green sports hall floor. If they were taking pictures of their stalls as well, it would kind of disguise the fact that they're in a sports hall too. So I do think that was a good suggestion. We've had stalls before that have put rugs and bits and bobs furnishings around their stall, and it really does transform the space. So I think that's something to kind of consider. So going back to my previous point of suppliers' thoughts on the cost of a stall at a wedding fair, I strongly feel that cheap isn't always best. Wedding fair organisers or venues that don't charge much for a stall simply won't have the budget to cover the good advertising, and therefore the footfall would suffer potentially as well. I'm not saying in all cases, but to me, in my experience, if you don't put the money into a fair, you're not going to get the results. So again, I just felt that was quite important as well to kind of address. So that's kind of everything I wanted to say on this topic. If you have any questions or anything, please leave them below in this YouTube video, or send me a message if you want to do it privately or whatever, and I'll happily answer your questions. But I hope that's kind of helped to, and I help with any confusion really on our events. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.